Hi everyone, and thank you for coming to watch my video. The purpose of my video today is to tell my story. So, trigger warning, this story is about rape and sexual assault. It is my personal story, and it's very important for me to share this because for me, it's an outlet to my healing. It helps me cope, go through my healing process because I feel that desire to break that stigma of women or any victim or, survivor feeling, ashamed or feeling afraid to speak up and just normalize talking about it because way too often society is, trying to shush the person who has been through this when in reality, that's backwards. So I want to share my story, and I am able to do that because I did go through my trial very recently, actually April of this year, and everything is kind of done. That opened a whole new door to my healing, and I'm actually going to do this in two parts because I want to be able to tell my story, how everything happened through my eyes, and then I want to do a part two on the whole trial and kind of, what happened with the trial and kind of where I'm at now. So to begin, I'm not going to be using any names or specific places. I'm just going to, talk about it in general. Some of you watching this may know more specific information, and I just ask you don't comment anything, keep it to yourself. But all right, so first things first is back in April of 2016, a friend of mine and I decided we wanted to go out, and I remember joking about it because we were like, it's Fireball Friday, let's go, kind of on a whim. And we were, moms of two young boys at this time. Our boys were only 2 and 3 years old, around that age. And, just like any mom would want a night out with a mom friend, that was our plan. And our plan was to meet together at my mom's house because this bar was in walking distance. And we were able to walk there and back, sleep overnight, wake up the next morning, and then go about our mom duties. So, as we're preparing to go out this night, I am texting with a friend of mine, and he was an ex as well, but he was just from the area, and that, he had mentioned he was going to that bar as well. So, I was like, okay, well, I'll see you there, whatever. So, we're at my mom's, and we leave, we walk up there, we're just excited to have a kid-free night, and, we love kicking with each other, so it was good vibes going into this night. And we get to the bar, and, we take like a few shots over time of the Fireball since that was a special, and everyone knows at bars, like whenever they run specials like that, it's usually, within a certain time period. So, as the night went on, my ex that I was texting did end up showing up. We saw each other. We said our hellos. He was with two other friends who I had seen before. Like I said, we had dated way back when I was like 15, only for a few months, broke up. The reason why we remained friends and close is because our moms were best friends, and I considered his mom like a second mom to me. And he was there for like my graduation, and we just like had a little party, and we just enjoyed each other's company. So these friends that he was with that night, I did recognize their faces, didn't remember their names, but just recognize them because I've seen them when I was with him before. So it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. I just kind of was going about our night. We said our hellos, and bar's only so big, so throughout the night we are seeing each other, talking, small conversation, going about our night. And I remember that before the special was over, my friend and I said, let's get a mixed drink on the special so then we can kind of coast on that for the night, and not have to purchase anything more. And that's exactly what we did. Um, as the night went on, I remember specifically it's probably getting later in the night, not closing yet, but just like maybe like an hour or so. I don't know exact times. But it just started to kind of get busier. More people are kind of starting to show up at this point, and we went to the bathroom. We came back out, and I saw my ex and his friends out on the towards like the center ish of the dance floor. So we had spoke again. We're all kind of like vibing, singing to the music, dancing, and then my ex asked, would you guys like another drink? And we accepted the drink. We knew that we weren't at our limit, and it wasn't out of the ordinary. I've accepted drinks from him plenty of times before. I've drank with him at his house and fell asleep there and never had any problems. So we asked for our go-to, which is rum and coke. He came back with that drink, and that's the last thing that I remember. So my next memory then, after accepting that drink and starting to drink it, was waking up in a bed, in a room, somewhere, no idea where I am, to the one friend of his on top of me in action, like in the act, penetrating me. And I obviously immediately freaked out. I remember just being very out of it. I still felt very like sick and like dizzy and just out of it. And I just remember, kind of screaming like my anyone's, first thoughts, I think, where am I? Where's my phone? Where's my friend? I'm just kind of like scatterbrained. I'm all over the place. And I just can't explain to you just that feeling of feeling like, what the fuck? Like, I have no memory from that drink, and just trying myself to piece stuff together but not having any memory. It was the scariest feeling ever. And I remember when I had woke up, and freaked out, and he jumped off, and I remember him just kind of running out of my sight. And I just, at that point, survival mode kicks in. I'm just looking for my clothes and my phone. I can't find my phone, but I found the wallet I had that night. And I went out towards, the only way out of this room was just through one door. So I went out, and then that's where I saw my friend. She was on the couch, passed out on this side. My ex was passed out on the other side and fully clothed. So at this point, the defendant who did it, he was in a separate room. I don't know where he went. He wasn't in my vision. So I'm trying to wake her up, and I'm like shaking her, and she was not waking up. So that scared me. And then I remember looking out the window to try to see where I was at, to maybe walk, but I didn't want to leave her. So I look outside, and everything, and this is in April, like second, third week April, and everything is covered in snow, like couldn't see the road. They weren't plowed yet. It was very early in the morning. You could kind of see that dawn, that early morning type light, and nothing was shoveled, nothing was plowed. It was just covered, and I just looked down at my outfit, and I knew that I would have been very cold. I had just flats on, bare feet and flats. I had jeans and like a very light sheer type of shirt. So I turned back around, and I was trying to wake her up, and she was just out of it. Like, I could not get her to get, fully alert to me. So that scared me. And before I know it, then the defendant himself is coming out of his room saying, "Everyone get up, my mom is here. She's going to take everyone home." So I felt like that was my only way out. And at this point, I'm still crying. He's not saying anything to me about what just happened. All he's saying is, "We're leaving." So I felt like that was my only way, and I pulled myself together, and you know, I ended up getting in the back seat of his mom's car. I remember sitting directly behind her and looking up, and she made eye contact with me in the rearview mirror, almost as if like she knew something. It was just weird. So I just looked out the window, and I at that point I just stay quiet. We got to my ex's house, and his mom, like I said, I consider her a second mom to me. She's asked me what's wrong. She's like, are you sure that's what happened? Like, are you sure? And I was out of it. I remember passing in and out, and I was still very sick, nauseous, throwing up. At some point, I finally came to, and I got someone's phone, and I called my boyfriend at the time, and broke down. But I told him I was okay, and that what happened, and I was just very upset, and I was very scared at what was going to happen next with our relationship or what. But I just knew that he was worried, because we always, no matter what, if we spent any time like night away from each other, would call early the next morning. We were new parents basically, so we would always call and say good morning, and I didn't do that. So I knew that he was worried, and I wasn't responding to his messages. I didn't have my phone. So my ex's mom ended up dropping us off back at my mom's where our vehicles were. My friend had to go get her son, so she left, and she said she was very just felt very terrible herself. So we both pulled ourselves together enough to drive to our homes. When I got to my home, of course, I felt disgusting, and I was still crying at this point, very upset, very sick. And I decided I wanted to take a shower. I was on my period at this time, and I did that. I took my clothes off, I got in the shower, and showered. Then I decided I was going to lay down with my son and take a nap, so this had to be around 12 by this point. And I just remember waking up to my boyfriend at the time telling me that he's going to take me to the hospital for a rape kit. So at this point, I'm still very weak. I can't explain to you. It was hard to walk. It was hard to sit up. My stomach was killing me, probably from all the vomiting. So I went to the hospital. And whenever you go to the hospital for something like that, they admit you and they put you into a room, because then a special nurse has to come to talk with you in order for the rape kit. So I went into this room and I waited. When that nurse came in, she could tell that I was visibly, ill. And I ended up, willingly admitting myself into the ER to be able to get fluids, because they wanted to assure that, my medical needs and everything were met. So I did that. And I just remember, like, on the way to hospital, I'm just crying, because I just kept saying, I don't want to be alone. Like, please don't leave me here alone. Like, I don't have my phone, so I can't even, like, text you. So he had my other friend come, and she did. She came right away, and she sat with me the whole time. And I remember that as I'm sitting there, getting the fluids, they called in the case. And, at that point, I'm just in the hospital, I'm waiting. And once I was able to feel a lot better, they put me into that room then. I spoke with a police officer, and he, started that process of questioning. He sat with me, he got my statement, he got my friend's information, got her statement. He was able to track my phone at a Turkey Hill, the one in Harrisburg. And, I was able to get that back. And then, he got all the statements that night that was required for him to get. So after that night, I pretty much, I don't know, it just went numb, I guess. I don't feel like it hit me right away. For me, for my, trauma, it did not hit me immediately. But I do remember I was there all night. The rape kit eval was intense. I didn't leave until like 11 o'clock at night, and I was admitted probably around 3 in the afternoon. And, half that time I was spent getting fluids as well. So it was just a very long, long day. And I just remember going home and just like, where do I go from here, So I, took it day by day. I'm grateful that I had a support system, and I got into the victim witness program. I was able to get counseling, but as time went on, even though he went into, jail immediately, he was bailed out, and then he ended up going back for violating probation. A few months after that, he was let back out. So for me, it was just a matter of the next court date or the next time we have to talk about it. Like, it was so hard to work through healing when you're awaiting something like this, right? So I knew from the beginning, it was set in my mind that I want to take it to trial if necessary, because I have nothing to hide, and I felt like, I don't know, to just allow him to try to, plea anything other than allowing, a judge to determine it just didn't sit right with me, I guess. So from the beginning I knew, and who would have thought it took 5 years? But the process after my rape was very hard. Stemming from that trauma, at some point, I did stop counseling due to just life shit as far as like insurance and the victim witness program, funds running out, just a couple different things, thinking that I was better, thinking that I was okay. And that led to me losing my job in February 2017. I just was not dealing with I thought I was dealing with it, and I wasn't, and I was using, other things to cope, like alcohol itself, on weekends, and just like, I wasn't on my best self, and I didn't realize that. I was masking that by running away from my problems. So in February 2017, I ended up losing my job, and that was very hard because it was a job that I loved. And I just kind of felt like I lost everything at that point. So I went to on and off back to therapy over time. And then in June of 2018, that's kind of where I hit my rock bottom. I got a DUI. And it wasn't until that I sat, in that jail cell, the drunk tank, whatever you want to call it, that I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I have a whole son. Like, I'm ashamed of myself as a mother right now. Like, I'm not proud of who I am. It just really hit me in that moment. And following the DUI, there's a lot of requirements you have to complete, in order to, process through that. So I was required to do certain counseling. And one of those was, seeing a therapist, specific, like, for drugs. I was getting alcohol tested, and he had admitted me into a victim witness group, and that group, I would say, really changed my life. It just felt good to sit in a room full of other women who had been through similar situations and not feel crazy or, like feelings invalidated. So that was a great turning point. At that point in my healing, though, I was just very angry still, and I did end up messing that up for myself. So I was pulled out of that group, and I was put into an intense, like, 3 hours, 3 days a week counseling. But that helped me tremendously after I finished that course. And that's kind of where I am now. That pushed me into wanting to tell my story and talk about it because, people think that whenever you go through traumatic events, just go to counseling and you go through it. No, like, it's not a simple circle. It's like sporadic. One day you can feel like you're on top of the world and you're healing and you're over it, and then the next day it's like boom, depressive episode for like a week over it. And I didn't have nightmares immediately, but out of nowhere I started to get some. So now I am in counseling. I go weekly and I stick with it, and it's just the best thing that works for me. And it's kind of where I'm at right now at this time. Until this day, 5 years later, I have no memory after drinking that mixed drink at the bar. And they say, over time, due to like PTSD and things, you can maybe get flashbacks. Nothing. And like I said, I'm going to do a part 2 for the trial just because that's a whole another situation. But I just wanted to tell my story, and I just want to say to any victims out there, I believe you, and don't be ashamed and don't be afraid. And if you ever need anyone to talk to, please message me. I have no problem hearing you or talking to you. And if you need any recommendations on what kind of counseling, there is different kinds of counseling. There's trauma-based, and that's what I'm in now, and that's been the most helpful. And just know that if you go to counseling and like that first therapist is not for you, don't give up hope, because it took me a long time in many places to find my place of comfort. So I just want to say that, and thank you to everyone who came to hear my story. And now that trial's over, I'm kind of in a whole new place, and I want to talk about that in my part 2. But before I end my video today, after my rape assault had happened, I wrote a poem, and I told myself that I wanted to read this in court on my trial date. I ended up not doing that. It was just too emotional, the whole process and trial for me. But I still have it, and I ended up typing it up, and I decided that I am going to say it today in my video. So here it is. It's titled Consent. So, consent. It means permission for something to happen or agreement to do something. Consent, it means permission. It means to agree. When you took my consent away that night, you took a part of me. Violated. It means to fail to respect someone's peace, privacy, and rights. You violated my privacy, took away my peace of mind. You shattered my self-confidence, leaving my self-worth undefined. A few hours of a Friday night results into years of healing, but I refuse to give up this fight until you feel what I'm feeling. I feel heartache, embarrassment, anger, unworthy. You deserve to feel ashamed, guilt, sorrow, and misery. No amount of jail time, probation, or court cost and fine can take back the night you crossed the line. You use my vulnerability as a power tool to take control and make a decision that was only made by you. Now here I sit, a victim of sexual assault and rape, part of a statistic, left to deal with all this grief and expectations that are unrealistic. You may never feel sorry, you may never feel guilt, you may never feel ashamed or feel how I feel. No words can really explain the hurt behind my smile, but I'll continue to move forward and move on. You can sit still and live in denial. Forgiveness, it means the action or the process of forgiving or being forgiven. Forgiving you is hard, forgiving myself is harder, and I am overcoming that battle, building myself stronger. Forgiving is a process, and a process I will follow. And I will tell my story, but the hardest thing about forgiveness is to forgive someone who isn't sorry. I'm a warrior. and I will proudly wear my armor. No longer going to stress your punishment. I'll leave that work to karma. You made the decision to violate me, and you made that decision with intent. Now you can live with the title as a rapist. That's not an argument. That's something you can't change. You also can't prevent. And that's all a part of the consequence you face when you violate consent. So I just poured my heart out. Because I remember a week after I was out, like, of work, out of it completely when after the rape occurred. I can't explain to you the emotional pain, the physical pain. So I poured all that out into this poem. I wrote it. I have not, made any adjustments to it because I can feel that feeling I felt when I first wrote this poem every time I read it. Like, overwhelms my body, and I just typed it up and I put it on this little paper, and I have it as a keepsake. So thank you for everyone who came and heard me out, and there will be a part 2 coming soon on the trial, and I hope you all have a great weekend.